Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar hosted by SEP Software. We are coming off a successful Red Hat Summit in San Francisco, and we made a lot of good contacts and met a lot of interested parties. So this webinar should give everyone a better idea of our backup and disaster recovery software and show you a demo of how it all works. Today we are joined by Lanai Bain and James Delmonico, who will be conducting the webinar for you all today. Lanai is our VP of Business Development, and he's responsible for channel partnerships as well as business development in North America, while James is our Senior Engineer who will be walking you through the demo. He's been with SEP for several years, and he knows the way around the software, so he'll be able to answer any questions that you have, any technical questions. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions on the right-hand side of the GoToMeeting dashboard, and then we'll be able to get to that throughout the webinar. There'll be a few Q&A sessions, so that's where we'll take care of that. So yeah, please don't hesitate to ask, and without further ado, let's kick it off to Lanai and get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Richard, thank you for the introduction. So yeah, we're going to just kind of start out with a brief overview of kind of who SEP is as a company, what we focus on, what some of our strengths are, and then we'll pause for a quick Q&A session, as Richard mentioned, and then go into a live demo portion. And Richard, if you can go ahead and make me the presenter, please, then I can go ahead and get started with the slides.
You should be good now.
Okay, are you guys able to see my slides?
Yeah, I've got you.
Okay. And I apologize, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties on my end. It's not exactly showing which view is up, so I apologize. There we go. So basically, SEP originated as a German-based company about 20 years ago. We have a very large presence in the EMEA market, and you know, we entered the U.S. market about 5.5, 6 years ago. So we're gaining ground very quickly. Not quite a household name in the back of a disaster recovery market yet, although that's quickly changing. Some of the main core features and functionalities and kind of competitive advantages that we focus on are listed here. So the first one is, you know, very early on we found that most of the folks that we spoke with who were looking for a new backup and disaster recovery software, we found a lot of those folks were using more than one solution to meet their needs. So a lot of the time we would, you know, see someone using possibly one solution for Windows. They might be using a different solution for Linux or for their virtual technology, you know, or even for specific databases. And so, you know, right away we realized that since we're able to support such a wide range of operating systems and databases, applications, et cetera, we could really help those companies, you know, by basically just standardizing down to one solution. So we could help them bring everything under one umbrella, give them one central management interface console to work with, and you know, really just help them streamline their whole organization and simplify things across their network and different locations. And the second main thing that we focus on is something that we focused on since the beginning of the company, which is performance. So SEP uses multi-streaming, and we're able to back up an unlimited number of streams to disk when backing up to disk, and up to 64 streams when backing up to tape. So, and that's per tape drive. So if we had 2 drives, then we'd be able to do, you know, 128 streams, and you know, that scales out. So we're basically the fastest backup solution on the market today, and in the real world, that just relates to a huge decrease in backup windows. We typically decrease backup windows anywhere from about 50 to 90% in pretty much every case. Our only real limitations are going to be, bandwidth or hardware limitations, network infrastructure, et cetera. And then the third main thing that we focus on is reliability. So, like I had said, SEP is originally a German-based company, and in Germany the laws are quite a bit different than in the U.S. and Canada. And one of the laws in Germany states that if a company tells another company they're going to back up their data, that company actually becomes 100% financially responsible for the other company's data. And so that's a huge responsibility and something that we take extremely seriously. So if any of you guys, are backup administrators and you've been doing this for a while and you've been around the block and you use several products, I would assume that you probably had a situation where you've gone to do a restore at one time or another using a different product, and there's either a corrupt file or an empty file or a file that's missing part of the data, and that just simply does not happen with our software. Being that we have one of I believe it's the second largest bank in Europe as one of our customers, Hypo Bank in Germany, at over 1,300 locations. It's something that we take very serious, and something that our customers, excuse me, can always count on. Always count on having their data there and accessible. And then the last thing that I put on here is just cost. It's not something that we really focus on, but I think it is relevant in the market for the past several years, especially given the climate of our economy. We typically come in at about 40% of industry average for enterprise backup and disaster recovery software. So in a lot of cases, we can switch people over, to a whole new solution for around the same cost as what their annual renewal cost may be for a competitor's product. And the ROI is very apparent within the first couple of years, if not sooner. So just a brief overview of some of the supported operating systems and platforms that we support. So going from left to right, from an operating system standpoint, SEP can run on Windows, Linux, any flavor of Linux, anything Windows after Server 2003. I believe we can actually run on Vista as well, but 2003 and later recommended. And then we can also run on Unix platforms, Solaris, etc. So that gives us a very unique advantage over our competitors who, basically all are required to run on Windows operating systems. So, especially for our friends in the Linux market that don't have Windows licenses or have 100% Linux infrastructure, it's very easy for us to support them natively in their native environment. And traditionally, our software background is more Linux and Unix focused. That being said, over to applications, we do have full support for all Microsoft products. So for Exchange, SharePoint, MS SQL, all the major Microsoft applications, as well as Lotus Notes, GroupWise, etc. And then as far as databases go, Oracle, SAP, MySQL, Postgres, DB2, Informix, all the major databases are supported. And everything that we do is at a API level. So when we communicate with Oracle, we back up via RMAN. When we back up MS SQL, everything's VSS aware to make sure that we have consistent backups with everything. And that holds true with our virtual technology support as well. So on the upper right, full support for VMware, Hyper-V, Citrix Zen Server, and Open Source Zen. And then we also have bare metal support for physical machines for Windows and for Linux. And we'll get into a little bit more of some of the features and functionalities and how we support these different applications as well. So getting back to the original main points that we highlighted originally, having one single console to manage all sites just makes things easier for end users. We have a Java-based GUI, so the GUIs are stackable and unlimited. It's not a licensed feature, so you can download GUIs to anywhere you'd like. You can have one on your laptop. You can manage it remotely from anywhere in the world. It's very easy and scalable. And any GUI that you authorize to have access to your backup infrastructure can be a terminal that you can access all the information from. You can customize the GUI and have different GUI layouts for different users. So if there's certain folks that focus on one region, if you have, say you have 200 locations around the country, if there are certain administrators that focus in different regions or different departments in a company, they can have their whole GUI laid out and customized to their needs, and they can just fire things up and immediately see everything they need to see and not see anything that is going to be a waste of their time. So here's just a kind of a generic diagram. This is a very simplified version of kind of a typical environment of someone that we work with. So on this diagram, you can see, and I know the numbers are a little bit small, I apologize. On the left-hand side, you can see number 1, which is the CSIM server. So that's the main backup server. So we could have locally attached storage, either disk or tape, connected to that backup server. We could also have that server connected directly to a SAN. And then you can see along the bottom we have a file server, some different database servers, an email server. So if those servers are connected directly to the SAN, then we can actually send the backups directly from those servers to the SAN. And we call that a LAN-free backup, since we're not sending any data across the LAN. So that's going to give us increased performance. It's also going to free up resources. It's not going to flood the local LAN network. And really just helps us efficiently streamline backup tasks. Again, the multi-streaming is going to help there, and we should see a huge decrease in backup windows. That works whether it's fiber or iSCSI, so both are supported. And then up over on the right-hand side, you can see there's a virtual machine, a virtual cluster there. So we can also back up the VMs directly to the SAN as well. Or we could take all of those backups and back them up over the WAN, over the LAN to the main backup server and pass all the data through that main server as well. So, or we could do any combination. We can also go through multiple firewalls. We can back up to the cloud, pushing data to the cloud, or we can have a cloud device server, is what we call one of our licenses, and that basically enables us to pull data to the cloud and then manage any data within a cloud environment, whether it's a public or private cloud. We also have the capability to manage remote sites. So you can see on the bottom here, we put what we call a CSIM RDS, or a remote device server, at a remote location, and that lets us back up to locally attached storage. Again, it could be disk, tape, NAS, SAN, whatever type of media you'd like to use as a target. And then we can, back up the local data to those types of media. We can also send them across to the main data center, or we can do a combination of both, where we back it up to locally attached storage and then send data across to the main data center as well. We could, in turn, send that data to the cloud. We could send it to other locations. And so we can really do any type of backup combination that a user would like to do. So we can do disk to tape. We can do tape back to disk to cloud. We could do cloud to disk to tape. Really any combination is supported. So whatever a network admin would like his migration path to be, we can accommodate. Getting back to the multi-streaming, one thing that we do a little bit differently than some of our competitors is the way that we schedule our backup jobs and our backup tasks. So we typically schedule everything into a task group, and then we're able to just start the entire group at once. And that lets us really leverage the multi-streaming technology. So in this example, you can see we have 9 servers on the left-hand side, and typical backup software would start one server, it would back up the data, it would, when that's finished, it would move to the next server, back up the data, and et cetera, continue onwards until all 9 servers were backed up. When we start task groups, we're actually able to have multiple streams running off of each server at the same time and start the backups for all the servers at once. So we could have one backup task for files, and when we kick off that job, it would kick off a stream from each server. We could set it up where there are multiple streams coming from each server if we wanted to, if there was a lot of data that we needed to back up. We could have another group task for databases. We could have another one for virtual machines. So we can basically start all the different task groups, at the same time, or elevate priorities. So certain ones start faster than others. And really, what this is doing is just giving us an opportunity to saturate the bandwidth with the multi-streaming. And so, we very often, pretty much always reach theoretical maximums as far as, the connections that we have to work with. So on a 1 gig connection, for example, the theoretical maximum is about 125 gigs an hour, and we expect to see about 120 to 124 gigs an hour for backup speeds. On a 10 gig connection, theoretical maximum is about 1.22 terabytes. And we typically see about 1.2 to 1.21 terabytes, and that scales out accordingly. So, multiple 10 gig connections or InfiniBand, we can see extremely high performance. And just a couple of real-world examples of some of the things we've been talking about. So, Vodafone, they're the partner company of Verizon in EMEA, and they've rolled us out to, I think, about 2,500 to 3,000 locations now. They're rolling us out to 4,800 total over the next year, year and a half, and they manage all those locations from one main data center with one console. So again, that's showing the scalability of managing a very wide, network infrastructure from one central management console. U.S. National Archiving and Record Administration, we took over their enterprise email system about a year and a half ago, and this is a great example of the multi-streaming, because when we first talked to them, they were doing backups of basically nonstop of their email system. So I think there was one period of time on Friday afternoon for about 6 hours when they did not have backups running. The whole rest of the week, it was just nonstop backups. And, we went in, we enabled our multi-streaming, we set everything up, and the first backup task we ran was 13 hours. So we went from, almost 7 full days to 13 hours, and after some, little configuration changes and tweaking, we got, the backup window down to 11 hours, and that's where it remains. So, they're able to do full backups every night, basically. The Port of San Diego, similar situation. Backups were taking over, 3.5 days. They were failing about 60% of the time, so they'd have to start the backup over. And with our multi-streaming, we were able to decrease that backup window down to 4 hours for our first backup that we did with those guys. And their Oracle backups, they were really happy about. I think they were taking about 4 hours and 40 minutes, or 4 hours and 50 minutes, somewhere around there, and they got the backups down to 42 minutes for their Oracle backups, and I think they were more excited about that than the decrease in overall backup windows. And another example of one central console to manage multiple locations. Public Works of Canada has this installed in 42 locations across the country, and they manage everything from one central data center. So again, just very easy to manage large network environments with multiple locations. Some of the other product features that we offer, we have an archiving technology, and this is basically just a worm technology and a file lock system that locks everything down and eliminates anyone from modifying data or deleting data, changing data or anything like that. So for a lot of compliance, compliance-based reasons, folks have had a lot of success with this portion of our product as well. We also offer deduplication, and I put generic drivers on here, and what I mean by that is we don't use any custom drivers. We don't create our own drivers for tape libraries or anything like that, or different SAN technology. We basically just leverage the operating system drivers, and that enables us to back up to any type of media that is recognized by an operating system. So, with a lot of our competitors, they have custom drivers or custom driver configurations. So if you want to go out and get a new technology, you have to call the vendor, backup vendor, and check with them and see if that technology is supported yet and if there's a driver for it. And with SEP, basically, as long as the operating system can see the hardware device, you can back up to it. So we're extremely hardware agnostic. Basically everything under the sun is supported. As I said, we have bare metal restore for Linux, Windows, and Windows workstations. And basically what that does is just create a bootable image file, or we can burn an image to a disk. So you have a startup disk, and if something were to happen to the server, you could spin up a new server. It could be physical or virtual. In the case of a physical server, it can be similar or dissimilar hardware. And it basically is just a wizard that guides you through and says, hey, would you like to, keep the same partition sizes or change them? So you have the option to, make them larger or smaller. And if it's, different type of hardware, it goes ahead and installs the drivers, and basically just get your, server back up and running in the quickest possible time. So for things like Active Directory and applications like that, it can be an enormous time saver. We do have some direct plugins with NetApp, and so we're able to get hardware-based snapshots from NetApp. We can also, one of the cool things that we do is we can back up from NetApp and restore to a different type of media, which I believe is something unique to our product. So we actually had a customer in Switzerland, I believe, that was using a NetApp solution, and they had some drives that went bad, and they were not able to get the replacement drives in time, but they were able to restore all of their data to a different SAN and keep their business up and running, until they could get the replacement drives. So it was something they were, really excited about, and basically, it really saved them a great deal of trouble and productivity loss as well. And then I'll also mention real quick, we do backups a little bit different with NetApp than some of our competitors, and we're actually able to backup NetApp environments about 6 times faster than the typical backup. We have full support for Exchange, and apparently I need to update these slides because we are also supporting 2013 as well. So everything's supported from 2003, I believe, up through 2013. Single user restore, In 2007 and 2010, we have single mailbox. Single email restore, and I believe in 2013 it goes down to the level of single user or mailbox. Everything's DAG aware, and there's some pretty cool features that we can go through in the demo as well and talk about. Full support for MS SQL, so we have everything's VSS aware. It gives you point-in-time restore capability. You can cross-restore different databases from one instance to another, and we'll show you what that looks like as well. Full support for Oracle. One of the really cool things that we do with Oracle that is unique to our software is the way that we are able to back up the data and basically just how we leverage RMAN. So just kind of an example of how everybody else does it, and then how we do it. So most of our competitors, if they support Oracle, they would, give a call to RMAN that says, hey, go in the database, grab all the data, and put that into a little temporary holding area. And then once that data is in there, then the backup software would go in and grab that data, pull it out, and write it to media. And so it's pretty much a two-step process. And what we're actually able to do is to give a call to RMAN that says, hand us the data directly and write it to the backup media. And so we just have a one-step process when backing up an Oracle database. So that does two things. One, it instantly cuts the backup time in half for Oracle databases, and that, that's irrelevant of our multi-streaming technology, which is going to make it go even faster because we can do multiple databases at the same time. So one, drastically decreases the backup windows, and then two, it really frees up a lot of space for users to utilize, for their actual database, and they don't need to have twice the size of available for backups of their database. So for example, here at the bottom we have one bank that has a 2 petabyte Oracle database. So for them, that's a very big deal. So if they were using a competitor solution, they would have to have 4 petabytes of storage available just for that database. And so with our solution, they're able to get a backup that's, less than half the time, and also it frees up 2 petabytes of space for them that they're no longer required to have. So that's, very important once things start to scale up in large environments. We have full support for SAP. We've worked with them very closely for over actually almost 20 years now, and we have the highest level certification of any third-party vendor with SAP. We have full support for all of Novell products. I believe we're one of the only backup solutions in the world to fully support all Novell's products. So if anyone has Novell in your environment still, give us a call. We have some pretty slick features with them as well. Full support for Mac. So that's Mac servers, Mac workstations, laptops, etc. Everything was fully supported at a client or agent level. And as far as virtual technology goes, we have full support for Citrix, Xen Server, VMware, Hyper-V, and open source Xen. As soon as an API is available for KVM, we will have support for KVM as well. And we're looking at possibly supporting Oracle OVM as well. So everything that we do with these virtual platforms is at an API level. So some of the cool things that we do with Citrix Xen Server is if any of you guys have ever shut down or blown away a Windows VM and tried to restore it with a competitor's product with Citrix, you'll probably see that when you activate the VM, it asks you to go in and re-enter your Windows product key code. in your Windows license, and any third-party software on the VM is going to ask you to do the same. And so what we're able to do is bring that back in the exact state that it was with the same UID. And so, as soon as the VM starts, it's restored exactly the way it was. You don't have to go in and activate everything. And, in the case of a hospital situation or, other situations that have strict SLA requirements, it's a huge advantage for the user to just be able to restore the VM and not have to track down key codes and, get all the third-party software up and running again. With VMware, we have full support for, VCB for the older versions of VMware, VADP for the newer ones, and we also support CBT as well. So we can do, we can use the change block tracking to give us, daily incrementals after we take our full backups over the weekend. So that frees up quite a bit of space. One of the other cool things that we can do is we're able to separate out VMDK files, and if we were to back those up to a shared volume, like an NFS share, for example, we would actually be able to spin up a virtual machine off of a copy of the backup. So if one of the VMs were to go down, we wouldn't necessarily have to wait until that entire restore was completed. We could just point to the shared volume and spin up the VM directly off of that. So it basically just completely eliminates any downtime that one would have when using VMware. With Hyper-V, everything is done through VSS, so there's full consistency. And the process that we, back up the VMs with is basically just creating an LVM snapshot. We mount the snapshot, back it up, unmount it, and delete it. And another cool thing that we can do is we're able to, back up and have automatic restores. So we can schedule automatic restores whenever we'd like, and we can schedule those restores to start up cold, where it just replicates a copy of a VM to a different pool, but does not turn it on or anything. Just has the image residing in a different pool. Or we can schedule the restore that turns it on once it's restored, so it's up and running. And that basically just enables us to have warm standbys. So throughout the day, you could take a copy of your production VMs, back those up, and then restore those to an active pool so that you have a warm standby. And then just to kind of quickly wrap things up here for the presentation portion of it, these are just some of our technical partners that we work with on a day-to-day basis. I'm sure that a lot of you have many of these products in your environment, so we're going to go ahead to a quick Q&A session right now, answer any questions that you guys have. So if you do have any questions, please enter those into the questions box on the right-hand portion of your GoToMeeting console. And after that, I will go ahead and we'll switch over to James Delmonico, and he's going to start with a live demo portion as well. So feel free to ask questions, and we'll get those answered for you here in a second. Okay. Let's go ahead here and try and answer some of these. Bear with me 1 second. It's a little bit fast, or it's a little bit hard for me to read these questions right now. My GoToMeeting is not working as it should be. Please bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read some of the questions here. I did get this to expand. So the first question is from Troy, and it says, with all of these streams writing at once, how do you prevent the heads on spinning disks from consistently thrashing around trying to keep up with hundreds of different write streams at once? and I'm going to let James answer that for you.
Commonly with the multi-stream layout, when we're talking to a physical tape drive, we're sending 64K full-size LTO blocks, and tape drives are well optimized to handle that. So in general, we get full performance out of LTO 5 and LTO 6 drives. With disks, with modern RAID arrays, we're still sending the same size blocks, and so we don't run into any trouble with disks or anything like that because the amount of in-flight data is very low per stream. So.
Okay, next question is, do we need any additional license to use NetApp storage? And the answer is yes. It is a license component of our software, although it's a pretty low cost to enable that functionality. Next question, can you go into a bit more detail on what you do different with NetApp backups that allow them to go so much faster?
Sure. When we connect to the NetApp API, we connect over to their web API. We generate a storage level snapshot, and then if it's a Windows type file system, then we're able to back up all of the data via NFS at wire performance without protocol overhead, and then pull the ACLs separately over CIFS. And so if it's a Linux type of file system or Unix file system, then just the original FS backup works. And so we don't have to back up the entire block level device or the empty space because we actually have knowledge and the ability to mount the file system. So that's where the big performance comes from. It also allows us to do multi-stream, and we can control the routing. So in our system, the data doesn't necessarily have to go through the backup server. And so whatever node is closest to or understands the right file system, we can use that node to transport the data.
Okay. And next question, do you support clustered ONTAP with NetApp as well?
We have full support for the entire NetApp range. I think all we need to know is one node with access to the share. Otherwise, the API is able to handle the snapshotting functionality for us.
Great. All right. A lot of NetApp questions today. That's good. If anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to submit those in the questions box. It looks like those are the only questions we've had so far, so let's go ahead and get into the live demo portion. And we'll also have another quick Q&A after the live demo portion. So if anything comes up or you have any questions as we go through, go ahead and submit those, and we'll get those answered at the end. So James, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
This is a fresh installation I did in about 20 minutes today. I installed the Sesame Server product here on this Windows 12 R2 box. This is just a tiny Citrix host with a RHEL 6 machine with RHS and Windows machine, and I also connect to the Citrix hypervisor. When we use our Sesame Server, this contains all of the components of the product. So we have this Java management GUI. We have our backend service and database. We also have the network listener for the media service. Our remote device server here just has a local agent and a media service. And so especially with RHS clusters or really clusters of any type, with a remote device server, we can write to our own local storage. So I've gone in and set up a target here on our RHS device, and we can use that to do the backups. So when we go from a client point of view to back up a Red Hat box, we have access to backup Oracle and OpenLDAP, Postgres, MySQL, all built into the software. We also have open scripting customization options, so anything that's not fully supported, we can make work and pull errors back through the backup service. This Linux DSR is really neat. This is a REAR-based relax and recover technology that's fully supported with our partnership with the developers over there. And when we make this backup, we get about a 50 megabyte ISO image. And that is information about the partitioning structure, file systems, UUIDs, and mount points, and also a working Sesame agent. So we're able to make an image level backup of the DSR box here in about 50 megabytes. And we can boot that ISO up on any other, in this case, 64-bit machine. And first step, restoring this, formats all the devices, mounts them all the exact same, even if we're on a different storage or a different type of RAID controller or totally different brand box. And then we're able to restore our latest file system incremental directly. So from a DR point of view, that's great because you can go from a VM to a physical or vice versa, or you can go from one hardware platform to another without worrying about it. So as soon as you have this backup, you know that you're not going to be out on eBay trying to get this old RAID controller or anything like that. And then we also don't have to, because of this methodology, we don't have to back up any of the empty space. So you end up with high performance small backups as well. By default, we get open files on all operating systems. And with Windows, we use VSS snapshotting for that. With Linux, that's, of course, native. So this all tag means all fixed disks and all local storage. And so this grabs all the data on the devices that isn't RHS or a network mount. Here, for example, I'm going to do an immediate start of this file system backup to our RHS. And if we had, many Red Hat servers here, they could all be writing directly locally to their own RHS and have that replicated in the cluster. That's also visible from Windows. When we go to do a Windows backup, we see any running services, and we're able to just highlight them. The same all tagging applies to the entire source. System recovery, in this case, is the entire Active Directory. We include that component for free with the client licenses. And with SQL, one SQL license from SEP covers as many different SQL installations, instances, or databases on that host. So if we had SQL here and SQL Express, then we could back all those up with one unit, and the same all tagging applies, or we could go individual database. From a structural point of view, we use a Datastore to keep the drive from getting full. So this lets us control the overall utilization per target. And then we have logical units within that called media pools. And property of a media pool is just a retention period. And so we can have an unlimited number of media pools. Commonly I see weekly, monthly, yearly, archive, something like that. You can kind of do whatever you want there to meet the storage needs for the environment or any SLA requirements. When we do our backups, like when I said we do everything in groups. So the production groups are disaster recovery, and that's directories, LDAP services, Windows registries, and our bare system recoveries and rear backups and things like that. System volumes, data volumes, databases, email and groupware systems, Exchange, SharePoint, all the other ones, and also virtual machines. And with those 6 groups, we can cover all the data in the environment. I'm just going to make an example group here for virtual machines. When we do the production installation, a full professional installation is about a 1-hour process, maybe a little bit more, 1 to 2 hours if we have a lot of VMware VMs or something like that. During the first time installation procedure, we create all 6 groups, and we assign them all to schedules. And that's just assigning a target pool and a backup method. So here, I'm selecting, weekly fulls and daily incrementals. And then I'll put some tasks into the task group. These are all of our virtual machines. We can control the order of operations here. And so it lets us interleave the data if we have, many volumes on Windows machines, and we're able to try to hit, in a larger environment, each machine for only one job at a time. To emulate what a schedule would do, to do immediate start of the virtual machine group to the RHS storage. And this is an interesting demo because this Firewall VM is the only one with a real network connection. So we're actually snapping our production router here for the demo. So fun stuff. Here in job states backup, we keep all of our metadata about the jobs, the performance, how things are going, what storage target. This stuff stays in our catalog database. And in the case of Linux, 64-bit Postgres backend. And on Windows, it's SQLite. Really, it's a management-free database because we're only keeping this metadata in the database. The actual big log files we're keeping on the file system. The software uses our standard agent to do all the heavy lifting and then plugs in the module in a pipeline. So here we've opened our save set, our file handle to the tape or disk or whatever storage we're using. And then here our Citrix plugin is connecting to the Citrix API and pushing the data. This design principle makes life really easy for an administrator because we always have the exact same behavior from all of the different technologies. And from a development point of view, it also makes our modules really small because all they need to do is connect to an API and backup and restore data. We've also taken care to untie data from APIs when we do our backup. So if we do a Windows backup and we, Windows file system backup, we can restore the files to Linux or vice versa. When we back up Exchange, we can restore it to that same Exchange cluster or API we talked to originally, to a brand new, fresh installed or different cluster somewhere else. Or we can dump it out to any workstation as a BKF file. The same thing happens with all the different technologies. So we can dump, LDIFs from an Open LDAP backup, or we can dump XVA files from a Citrix backup, or we can dump the Datastore files from a VMware backup out to any client. So you're really free to use the backup system or to use native tools, if you want to do any type of inspection, or if some OS or API isn't available, but you still want to transport the data, that's all fine to do. This Java GUI is just a SQL client, and so you can see everything that the GUI does here. This is great for custom reporting because I can just say, oh, I want to know what drive number, and then, hey, there's the SQL I need to cut and paste into the email notification to get advanced reporting. So that lets us know everything that the GUI is doing. As far as the system itself, all the backend logs are here in daylog, and this is everything from, starting the service, changing a setting in the GUI, starting a backup, ejecting the tape, checking license. So between the GUI logging and the backend logging, I can see everything that the system does. There's no hidden registry or, giant executable going anywhere, anything like that. Also, as you can probably see here, everything's command line backed. We use the same build. We only have one copy of the code base, and we build that for Unix, Linux, and Windows. That means all of the functionalities are the exact same, all the features are the exact same, behaviors are the exact same. Everything, even down to the command line is the exact same behavior. So from an admin point of view, you're just thinking, okay, is it in /opt or is it in C program files? So you're able to, to do everything that way. When we do our backups, we're able to control the targets, the different server licenses. The only difference is the total target concurrency. So in this case, I've selected 25 streams of concurrency on this little hypervisor. But that's just a license limit. So you can have either multiple drives, hundreds of servers, or any combination you want. We have not only can we schedule backups, but we can schedule automatic restores. When I touched on that briefly with hypervisors, commonly we want to back up a big hypervisor cluster, pull it from the management API or directly from the SAN if it's VMware, save it to another SAN volume potentially, and then automatically restore that to an isolated hypervisor cluster on different storage. That way, if anything happens, we can just go and switch the VMs on, and we're back to a known good state. There's the Oracle support that we have is not only for Linux but also for Windows, and we are effectively a tape driver for RMAN. And so the moment that we start an Oracle backup, it actually opens a file handle all the way through to the target storage, which could be disk, SAN, RHS, anything that's supported by any of the OSs in the system. And then we write the data directly without any intermediate storage or landing zone. And so that really makes a big difference from doing an Oracle backup, because you don't have to think about allocating all that space and waiting for that to happen. There's built-in backup for all of our stuff. We also have email notifications that are open scripts, so we can Bourne shell scripts on Linux, PowerShell on Windows. We can edit those to do anything special we want. We can also send SNMP management traps to any type of management system. And I think the combination there really leaves the entire implementation of the system up to what makes the user comfortable and what works the best for the environment. So there's no real enforced structure or behavior in the software. That's really the basis of the functionality. And due to this Java GUI, everything that you see here in Windows is the exact same on Linux, except this top menu bar icon. So you get the exact same behavior from any OS, from a management GUI also. At this point, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Okay, we had a question come in that says, is it possible to do single mailbox restore in GroupWise? And yes, the answer is yes, you can. You can actually do not only single mailbox, but you can do single email restore as well. There is a caveat to that, though, and so I can kind of explain how that works. So GroupWise, natively compresses their entire database, and that's why it ends up being so small. And so we actually do need to go in and restore the entire post office before we can pull out any of those, single user or single email files or folders, because it's compressed inside of GroupWise. So there's really no solution on the market that can do that without restoring the entire post office. So what we do is kind of a workaround that we've gotten really good results with, is to do a full backup of GroupWise, and then we just schedule an automatic restore as soon as that's done. So when you come in the morning, you should have a fully restored version of GroupWise ready to go. So if anyone needs anything throughout the day, you can just they can either go into GroupWise and access that, or you can go through SEP and just drag and drop or restore whatever folders or users need to be restored. So the answer is yes, but you do have to restore the entire post office first. And again, it's a limitation with GroupWise. There's no way around that with any software. Okay, if anyone has any other questions, please go ahead and submit those. We'll give you guys a second here to submit any other questions. Okay. Well, James, I think you did a pretty good job covering everything since we don't have many questions. So one thing I would like to say is we do have a 30-day trial version, which is exactly what you guys are looking at here on the screen. So if you guys would like to do any testing or try any of the software, set up a trial version, run a little proof of concept or anything, please do let us know. We're more than happy to help you get everything set up. We can even log in with you and help you with an installation and configuration and kind of, walk you through the product and just really help you get started. I think it's just kind of a time saver if you want to, take a look at things. Or if you have any follow-up questions, please shoot us an email. let us know if there's anything else that we can help with. And I'll go ahead and put our contact information up here so you guys all have that. So again, feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us by email at info@sepusa.com or call our main office at 303-449-0100. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. We appreciate your time. We know you guys are all very busy. Please continue to follow us on our webinar series. We should have another webinar in 3 to 4 weeks coming up, and we'll send out emails to notify everyone when that is.